We're back. You didn't think you'd get rid of us that easily, did you? The Sons of UCF pregame shows continue on. This time, the basketball edition. We'll get into all that in just a few moments. First of all, season's greetings to all of you out there in Night Nation. Thanks for tuning in for another week as we get you set for the tip-off of UCF versus number 6 Houston. Before we go into all the details, let me introduce you to my co-combatants here this afternoon. As always, the second half of the Sons of UCF and the new maven of merchandise with the new Sons of UCF hats, Mr. UCF Mike. Mike, welcome in, man. Merry Christmas. How are you?
Merry Christmas, man. Cougar week continues, right? We had some Cougars on Tuesday night with BYU, and now we got Houston Cougars on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we're not scoring as much with the Cougars as we thought we might. Hopefully that changes today. And I don't know how to describe this guy's hat, but in the full Santa Claus motif, live from the Rocky Mountain region, it is the one, the only Mr. Trace Trucco. Trace, season's greetings. How are you?
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, guys. Fitting that Mike would make the segue there between BYU and Houston. That's what you're tuning in for early in this pregame show for.
What else would you expect from us here at the Sons of UCF? So here's what's on tap for you this afternoon. Obviously, we're leading up to the 1 p.m. tip-off between UCF and number 6 Houston. We'll have a cavalcade of guests, including UCF Hall of Famer Bo Clark, and Black and Gold Banneret's own Eric Lopez will join us as well to preview the game. And obviously, we'll have some fun. We'll take your questions throughout the show, so make sure to drop those in the comments, and we'll be happy to address some of those throughout the remainder of the show. And we have a fun contest towards the end. Mike has a dog. It is nameless. Mike needs a name for his dog, so he is going to rely on you, Night Nation, for the dog naming support. But let's get into the details, guys. So men's hoops, a surprising 3-1. I don't know if I should say that, but I'll start with you, Trace. Men's hoops 3-1, coming off of big wins against Florida State and Cincinnati. Are you surprised at the 3-1 Knights as we get ready for this game this afternoon?
I think if you're being fair, the answer is yes, you're surprised. But then Johnny Dawkins has his teams prepared. So in that regard, I'm not surprised. But going up to Tallahassee and beating then number 15 Florida State, that certainly surprised me. Taking care of business at home Tuesday in the home opener against Cincinnati, American Athletic Conference opener, that did not surprise me. So it sets up a very interesting battle here with number 6 Houston coming to Orlando. It certainly changes your perspective on the season if the Knights can come out of victory with a victory today. 8-point underdogs at home. You know that Kelvin Sampson is going to have the Houston team prepared, and it should be a good battle for the Knights.
Mike, we talked about it on the show this week, obviously. 2 big wins. Florida State, obviously, a really big win. Cincinnati, I guess we don't know how good they are, but still a nice, tough, quality win for the Knights. I think we consider that a quad 2 win based on where we are right now. So overall, some good wins for the Knights and some good performance so far from a couple guys. Mike, who stood out to you so far as the season's tipped off?
The guy right away is the freshman, Isaiah Adams, has been amazing. And, of course, Brandon Mayhem. Brandon Mayhem is having a season so far through 4 games that I didn't see coming. I don't know if anybody did. He's putting up amazing points, rebounds. He's doing it all. And, you know, we talked about this before the season started. This is the toughest stretch, I think, of the schedule was these first 6 games. And we had a couple of them canceled. But the games we played so far, Florida State was going to be a tough one. This one is going to be a tough one. We're already 3-1. If we win this one, we're in the driver's seat for the conference. I love the way the team has started out, especially not knowing how these guys were going to mix early in the year. A lot of transfers. C.J. Walker coming in from Oregon, Darius Perry from Louisville. A lot of guys you didn't know how they're going to gel together, and so far, so good.
Yeah, so let's go through particulars. Obviously, 3-1 UCF takes on 6-0 Houston. It'll be in Orlando. This game was previously scheduled, but was pushed back. Houston's had a rash of COVID issues. They haven't really provided too many details. The only detail they have provided, Kelvin Sampson made a comment that everybody on their team has had COVID at some point. So we're not quite sure what that really looks like and when that is. But this is a kind of a rescheduled game, and it kind of fits in. And Trace, you mentioned Johnny Dawkins, a guy who's been somewhat maligned, I guess might be fair to say, in UCF fandom, if you will, but off to a 3-1 start. Always a solid coach. What do you make of the job that Coach Dawkins has done so far?
Well, let's not give too much credence to maligned. Maligned amongst a certain percentage of the fan base who will be opposed to anyone and anything that is related to UCF just because they're disgruntled. So let's not blow that up, that Johnny Dawkins is trashed by the majority of the fan base. Perhaps the greatest coaching hire that Danny White has made during his tenure at UCF. He has his guys prepared, and as Mike mentioned, even some of those parts, CJ Walker, there's still an acclimation that's going on with this team. They're still adjusting to one another. Darius Perry out for early with injury, so they still haven't had that opportunity. And you notice that as well with the lineup changes that Coach Dawkins has made. So can they win the rebounding battle today? Can they attack the boards? Can they continue to do well from the free throw line? Again, he's going to have them prepared, but what team do we see? Do we see the team that won at Florida State? Do you see a team that had to struggle towards the end to close it out against Cincinnati? Or do you have something like the situation at Michigan a couple of weeks ago where you're just, you run into a wall and you can't get anything going? Nonetheless, even with a loss, if there were to be a loss today, I think if you would take 3-2 after 5 games, all things considered. And as Mike said, I think that it changes your perspective on where they go in the American Athletic Conference season.
Mike, I know you touched on some of the players that kind of impressed you early on. What about the just style of play? Anything sort of surprising you so far about the way that the Knights have played and the way they've won the games they've been in so far?
I love how aggressive we are on offense, man. We attack the basket. These guys, like I was saying, Adams and Mayhem, they're not afraid to go to the hoop. And I don't know how great we've been in setting up an offense, but in transition, getting a lot of easy buckets. I love seeing that. And, of course, the staple of Johnny Dawkins is playing tough defense. That's something that we got to improve on, too. Obviously, CJ Walker's provided a big boost in that area. He's long. He blocks a couple shots a game. But it's something that I think we need to get a little bit more tight on, and it's going to be a big test today with Houston with their guards who love to shoot, and can we get out on the perimeter and defend those shots, not give them any wide open threes.
Yeah, I think the other standout thing has been free throw shooting. For a spell there, UCF was number 1 in the nation in free throw shooting, which has not been a hallmark of our teams over the past couple of seasons. I think we dropped out of that number 1 spot. I think we're in the top 10 now, obviously, as games go on. But I had an old high school coach who used to tell me, if they give you free points, take them. And it certainly has been helpful that UCF can make some free throws, which has not been a hallmark of where we are. But I think for us, we should learn more about what UCF's doing tactically, and we have just the guy to do that for you. We teased it earlier. This guy is a UCF Hall of Famer. Also spent 31 years on the bench at Flagler College, amassed over 490 wins, and he's a legend UCF lore. And we're happy to welcome in UCF's own Bo Clark to the pregame show. First of all, Bo, Merry Christmas, and how are you?
Great. It's great to be here. Merry Christmas to all Knights fans, and it's going to be a heck of a game today.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it, Bo. We got a bunch of questions, so let's get right into it. I want to tap into your coaching background for just a second. Mike touched on this earlier, but this UCF squad, a lot of these guys were not together next year. So this is the last year, excuse me. So this is a team that Johnny Dawkins has had to put together and get some opportunity to get some rhythm. And there's been a pandemic, by the way, so they've had a tough challenge. Yeah. From a coaching standpoint, what's the challenge in getting a bunch of new guys into the gym and gelling together? And how impressive is it to you that Johnny's done that and got us out to a 3-1 start?
I think that's one of the hardest parts of coaching. A lot of times at Flagler, we would get junior college transfers or Division I transfers from. I actually got a couple from UCF and Furman and so forth. But it's amazing that with the schedule they've had and, beating Florida State on the road was huge. And, I heard you guys earlier, when I got on and you were talking about, the Florida State win. And I think that is going to be a confidence builder. Hopefully it carries over to today's play. I was actually at the Auburn game. And that's the only game I actually have seen the Knights in person, and that was an impressive win. And their whole schedule, I mean, there's no cupcakes on there.
But when you go into a game like this, we're big dog, 8 points. What can you do as a coach to try to gain an advantage for your team?
Well, Johnny's calling card is defense, and I think he's one of the best defensive coaches really in the country. And whether that's from Coach Krzyzewski or his background or whatever, but he's a phenomenal defensive coach. Last year, I was able to watch the Knights play 3 or 4 times. I really thought that they had trouble scoring. They went for stretches 3 or 4 minutes where they didn't score any points. They didn't have any free throws. And to be a good team at any level, whether it's Division I, Division II, or Division III, you have to be able to score. You can't go with for 3 minutes without scoring. And that's one thing that I'm excited about this year's team is that they really can score. I mean, Mayhem is having an unbelievable season. When you look at his stats, I was looking at him before I came on. He's averaging 22 and leading the American, and you look at his 3-point shooting percentage and his free throw line percentage, and it's like off the charts. And if they can keep getting play like that, and then you got the Mr. Basketball, who's having a great freshman year, the Adams kid, and then Green and Fuller, and I was really impressed with UCF when I saw him against Auburn.
Bo, last we spoke was in conversation about the book you wrote on your dad, Torchy Clark, UCF legend, UCF Hall of Famer. What do you think your dad would have liked about the style of play that Coach Dawkins coaches?
Well, it looks like they're trying to kind of push it more and play it a little more up tempo. And then I heard you guys mention easy baskets, and that was one of the things that was my dad's calling card, was not only his press, but he always wanted his teams to get easy baskets, whether that was the long court pass, whether that was a 3-on-1 fast break. After the other team scored, we would try to get the ball out quick. And when you get a lot of layups and you get wide open threes, your shooting percentages go way up, and that gives you a greater chance to win. But I think my dad would actually like the way they're playing this year, because they are playing a little more up tempo, and 3-and-1 with that schedule is phenomenal.
But one of the great things about this format is we can actually take questions from fans live. And so Florida Dude 91 actually has the same question I had, which you just mentioned. Obviously on the break, UCF has been pretty prolific, but how about in the half court offense? It seems like we stalled down a little bit when we kind of run some half court sets. I know you saw the Auburn game live. What are you seeing in terms of UCF and sort of their half court set offensive production?
Well, I think that's going to get better and better as time goes on with all the transfers they have. You're trying to get the Walker kid acclimated to the offense, and I know Mayhem played last year. You got Adams, and you got all these guys that you're trying to say, hey, wait for the screen, wait, go back door here. Hey, let's try to go top side a little more offensively. But I think that's going to be, if this team can keep improving, even if it's 1%, they could almost be as good as that team that Johnny had 2 years ago that lost to Duke on the last second.
Bro, today's game is a pretty big deal. It's on ABC, 1 o'clock. What do you remember against the number 6 team in the country? Going back to your days, what was the biggest home game you remember playing in?
We played my senior year. We played every time we played Rollins. It was a big game. Heck, we'd play at Rollins, and there'd be 3,000 people there, and the game would start at 7:30, and at 7 o'clock there wasn't an empty seat in the house. And but I'd say Florida Southern, we played them several times at home in the Torchy Clark gym that they named after him, and it's I'm really anxious to watch it. I think that's really exciting. I know the football team was on ABC a couple times this year, and anytime you're on, ESPN is awesome, but ABC is another animal. I think that's tremendous exposure. not only for the university and the school, but for Johnny and Danny and the programs that they have. And Danny has just done a tremendous job. I know, football had kind of a crazy year, but Josh Heupel can really coach. Johnny Dawkins can really coach, and they've really got some good people that are leaders at UCF.
The critics have questioned Coach Dawkins' ability to recruit, and look, we've got C.J. Walker and Mr. Basketball, Isaiah Adams. Talk about what you've seen from Isaiah Adams. His confidence is just off the charts.
Yeah, it's almost like he's back in high school, and that's and I hope he can do that today, because Houston with Kelvin Sampson always has great guards. Over the years, and I think Kelvin Sampson and Johnny are two of the best coaches in the country. Kelvin Sampson's teams are always disciplined. They always take good shots. They always have players, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4, that can create their own shot, that can dribble into the lane, pull up, or dish. And but I've been really impressed with the Adams kid, and he's right up the road. I live in St. Augustine, and he went to Paxson and Jacksonville, and Mr. Basketball, and I'm sure Florida State and Florida were all over him. So that was a big time recruit for Johnny.
Well, you mentioned Kelvin Sampson. I think one of the things as a coach that some people say about him is he does a good job working the officials. As a coach, take us behind the scenes. How do you work an official? Do you set that up before the game? Or are you kind of getting in their ears about something? Are you doing it during the game? How does one, as a coach, kind of set up an official and kind of get your message across?
Well, I think you always have that opportunity to maybe talk to a ref when a free throw is going on, because there's always one ref. Sometimes, depends on which end the free throw is. And I really wasn't, as a coach, my 36 years and 31 at Flagler, I really wasn't one of those guys that was asking the ref about how his wife's doing, or did he have a good Christmas, or did Santa get what he wanted him for Christmas. I actually, and my dad was like that too, I would actually bark at the refs about some calls. And even though I only got 2 or 3 technicals, and my dad really never got a lot of technicals, but there are a lot of coaches that are kind of slick and kind of know how to do it. And I think sometimes, when you're asking about the ref's family, or you're saying to the ref, hey, ref, can you make sure that you watch the flopping, or 31's traveling a lot when the ball's swung and so forth. I think that can help. I know you can do it in basketball a lot easier than you can in football, but I wasn't one of those guys that coached in the game, and my goal was to work the refs. I wanted to coach my team, and that was my job, and that's what I felt like that was my responsibility.
When you have a coach on the other sideline for the other team that is going after the refs, does that kind of aggravate you as a coach, and you see him getting a call or 2 during the game, and you say, come on, that's only because he's been getting on you?
100%. I could name 10 guys that I coached against over the years, and for my first 20 years at Flagler, we were NAI, and then we were Division II in the Peach Belt the last 10 years, and there were a lot of guys that would talk to the refs and then get a call, and then I'd say to my assistant, he got that he got the benefit of the doubt on that call just from the way he worked the ref, and and that was maybe something when I look back at my career that maybe I should have done more, was to work the refs. But I think both coaches today, at 2:00 today, when that game starts, you got 2 unbelievable coaches, 2 unbelievable people. I love watching Johnny and Kelvin both coach. Their teams are disciplined. They play great defense, and I think Kelvin Sampson easily could be an NBA head coach. In fact, I thought he would end up maybe getting the Rockets job when that came open. But no matter where he's at, Oklahoma or the Houston Rockets or the University of Houston, Kelvin Sampson's teams, always perform, and they just always seem to step up.
In a close game, it could come down to who shoots better from the free throw line. UCF 77% from the line this year. They were 23 of 26 at Tallahassee against Florida State. A little bit down to earth against Cincinnati earlier in the week, 14 out of 24. As a coach, how much did it drive you crazy to see your guys make them in practice and then brick them during a game?
Well, really, when you say 23 for 27, usually, in fact, I even talk about that in the book, and I know this isn't about my book. But one of my dad's teaching points was he always felt, now this was before the 3-point shot, but he always felt the team that shot the most free throws would usually win the game. And usually, when I say that, it can't be, 10 for 27, but, if you're 23 for 27 and you said to me, this team was 23 for 27, did they win the game? 99% of the time, I would say yes, they won the game, because that means you're doing a great job rebounding. That means you're doing a great job getting to the basket. Your players are aggressive, and instead of just throwing up 3-point shots. And it's amazing, Mayhem, leading the American in scoring. I saw he's 10th in the nation in scoring, which is really, really exciting. Because last year's team, I know they had trouble scoring, but this year's team really seems like, they're getting better and better, and they got guys who can fill it up. And I think Mayhem shooting 95% from the foul line. And but that really could be a key to the game today, is who goes to the line the most, and do they make their free throws. I was not at the Cincinnati game. I heard it was a heck of a game, and UCF had to hang on. But I was at the Auburn game, and that was exciting. The game at Michigan, those games happen. That's part of coaching. And then beating FSU at FSU, that Tallahassee Leon Civic Center. We actually played them once when I was at Flagler. It's one of the hardest venues to win in the nation. So that for UCF fans and the black and gold, that was a huge, huge win. That might have, been one of Johnny's biggest.
But let's talk about Darren Green Jr. for a second. Obviously, we know he's a sharpshooter, but here's the thing. The other team knows that too. So as a coach, or as Johnny Dawkins, what can he do to get Darren some open looks, right? Obviously, in transition, sometimes you lose a guy, he can get some open shots. But in the half-court set, what kind of things do you think Johnny needs to do to get Darren some open 3 opportunities?
Well, a lot of times to get a shooter open, you can have that shooter be the screener, and then use them in a pick and pop, or have them screen and then get another screen and then kind of flare to the corner. But you mentioned scoring in transition. He's got to sprint out, get to that spot. Hopefully the guard will kick it to him, and then try to set as many screens as you can for him. And this scouting and with Synergy today and all the video, everybody knows that he can shoot the basketball, and that's I think that's one of the toughest things, is to get your shooter shots, when the other team kind of locks them up and really defends them and really, denies them touches.
Bo, I just had to correct you really quickly. You said the game was at 2:00. It actually got moved to 1. I don't want you to have to miss it.
Okay, I thought it was at 2. All right, it's 1 o'clock.
It was originally at 2. When they switched it to ABC, they switched it to 1. So I don't want you out there cutting grass and miss the first half or anything.
I'm glad you told me that. I pulled up some game notes, because I wasn't able to go to the Cincinnati game, but I was at the Auburn game, and what a huge win for the school and for the basketball program, especially with Auburn, going to the Final Four 2 years ago. And Bruce Pearl is not only a great recruiter, but he can really coach the game too. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to go out and do some things with my wife and come back at 2. But I'm really excited about this game, and I think it'll be a great matchup. And I hope all Knight fans will also get excited about it. And sorry, Mrs. Clark. But I just want to say that about UCF with the football, Josh Heupel is an unbelievable coach. And if he wasn't the head coach at UCF, he'd be the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts or for the Kansas City Chiefs. The guy can really coach. I love watching his games. They last about four hours. But I love, you know who would really love Josh? And his kids actually went to my camp in Winter Park. My dad would really like his style of coaching, the way his teams in football terms kind of push it, and I think they'll come back. It was a strange year with COVID, and but I think he's UCF has a diamond with Josh Heupel, and they also have a diamond in Johnny Dawkins too.
So C.J. Walker has been a little slow offensively getting off the start of the season, but just a force defensively, multiple blocks against Cincinnati. Just be patient with him offensively, and you think it will the game will come to him?
Yeah, that's really a great question, and I think about the transfers that I had, and especially with UCF getting Oklahoma game canceled, and was that the only game canceled? Oklahoma?
Yes.
Okay. And that, but they didn't have any preseason scrimmages. They didn't have any exhibition games. So I think that hurts a guy like Walker, because he needs to be under the gun, as I say, in the fire. And he's he got thrown in the fire right away against Auburn instead of, playing in an exhibition game against, Eckert or Rollins or whatever. And I think we're just going to have to be patient with him. He is long. He's athletic. He's not the kind of guy that's going to make 5 threes in a game, but he's the kind of guy that is going to get, 12 points and 10 rebounds. It's obvious he can play. He is tremendously long, and that's one thing about this team is they really do have great length and great size. And I was really impressed with the talent that they have.
Well, Bo, we appreciate you giving us some time this morning before the game. But before we let you go, you mentioned your book. So for those who don't know, tell everyone a little bit about the book you wrote about your dad, Torchy, and how it's doing and where they can find it.
Yeah, it's really it's unbelievable that the support and the calls and the emails that I've gotten about the book. And writing a book in the pandemic, or I should say, releasing a book in the pandemic maybe wasn't a great idea, because I'd love to come to UCF. I'd love to come to Bishop Moore. I'd love to come to Orlando and promote the book and talk about the book, because there's some great things about UCF. But if anybody's interested, they can just, at this stage, you can just type in Torchy and go Torchy Amazon, and it'll pop up. But I've got a great response from it. I'm hoping that once things settle down, people get the vaccine, and we can actually have like a normal world, that I'll be able to actually go out and speak and promote the book, because I think anybody that is a black and gold fan would enjoy kind of reading about the history. It's been 40 years since I graduated. I graduated in 1980, and then I got my master's in 1982. But that's 40 years ago, and I know UCF has changed, but UCF is in great hands with Danny White. He's another class guy, and you couldn't ask for 3 better people than Danny White, Johnny Dawkins, and Josh Heupel. I mean, you got you got three great people right there and three great leaders. And I'm glad you told me that the game is at 1 because I was, I was looking at some game notes and I noticed that Houston always has great guards. I don't know if that, I guess that's part of Kelvin Sampson's recruiting, but they always have guards. And I think that's one thing that UCF's going to have to do today is kind of keep those guys in check. And they're going to have a good game offensively too. It should be fun.
Well, again, the book is called Torchy, The Humble Life of a Coaching Legend. It's available wherever you get your books, Amazon, any of those sellers as well. And Bo, we're glad we saved you, hopefully, from a trip to Bed Bath & Beyond. Hopefully you enjoy the game. And if we do this again, we'd love to catch up with you soon, okay?
Hey, you guys can call me whenever. I was excited about getting the call, and you guys do a great job. I love your enthusiasm. And I was listening to you for about 10 minutes before I went on the air. You guys really know your stuff. And, being an alumni of UCF, alumnus of UCF, I'm proud that we got guys like you really promoting the school and really promoting the programs. And, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. Thanks.
Same to you, Bo. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Bo.
It's always great to have a UCF Hall of Famer and a legend join us, Bo Clark. Again, 31 years on the bench, obviously a prolific player, scorer at UCF, and quite a lineage there. Obviously, his father, Torchy Clark, was a famous coach as well. Trace, how'd you enjoy catching up with Bo Clark?
I really enjoy listening to Bo. By the way, you got to cut out that little promo part right there and drop that in, because that was pretty good testimonial there. I've read the book, and when I reached out to Bo and told him I wanted to read the book before talking with him, because most conversations you have with authors are before the book has come out. The interviewer hasn't had an opportunity to read the book. They've skimmed it. And we have fond memories of Torchy Clark from our days at UCF. And for any UCF fan, as Bo said, it is a must addition to your collection. It's an easy read, and you get his whole arc of his coaching career, his faith, and the importance of family to him. And I think it makes you a more well-rounded UCF fan. We talk a lot about this in regards to football, even basketball, with the success Johnny Dawkins has had the last couple of years. The basketball program just celebrated 50 years. There were sports before the run the last couple of years under Danny White, and you appreciate the success that UCF had in other divisions through the years. And I still have that interview clipped, pinned at the top of my Twitter feed at Seinpez, SEINPEZ. Give it a listen. It's a good read. And I look forward to seeing Bo. I'd like his autograph and sign his name on that book and keep it as part of my collection. So a great guest to have, and just cut out that little part and drop it into the promo reel. He's a good testimony.
Guys, I've been joking that saying we're a basketball school now. We were a basketball school before we were a football school, and it's because of Torchy and Bo. And if you never had a chance to have a class with Torchy, then I don't know you experienced UCF the way you should have, because Adam and I had one, and that guy
I had him for a class.
Full of energy.
I actually had two with him. I had two.
God. That guy was incredible, man. I loved. Usually you go into class, you don't want to go. I couldn't wait to go to Torchy's class because it was gonna be so entertaining. The guy was great. He had all kinds of stories, and Bo is a great guy. We've had him on the show before too. Really glad we were able to talk to him today too.
Well, again, let's turn our sights now to UCF and Houston. Obviously, a tough game with the Cougars coming in ranked 6th overall. Johnny Dawkins was asked about that during one of his press availabilities this week. So let's play a quick clip from Coach Dawkins.
Amazing job with his group. I mean, what he's done at Houston, he's transformed them to back in the days where they were one of the best programs in the nation. He's done that, every year since I've been in the league. I've watched them compete at that level. So he's turned it into a national program. And as players, I love the way they play. I know they're hungry. They can compete every possession. They're going to fight you for everything you get. And that says a lot about a coach, because that's a lot of good teaching. So, no, they're going to be a really good basketball team. I've yet to see them play this year, but I already know how they're going to play because I hadn't seen them change, and I wouldn't either if I had the success he's had.
So obviously, Coach Dawkins pretty effusive in his praise against at least for Houston. But let's bring in our next guest. He covers all things UCF sports for the Black and Gold Banneret. It is our good buddy, Mr. Eric Lopez, is back with us again. Elo, Merry Christmas. Thanks for hopping on with us today.
Merry Christmas to you guys. What a tough act to follow. I got to follow Bo Clark, the Hall of Famer. Good Lord. Holy macro.
Well, we'll throw you some
cut your
softballs.
promo now, Elo. Cut your promo now. Give us the effusive praise so that Adam can chop that up and work it into the promos.
First of all, that was fantastic to get Dawkins audio. That is phenomenal. Like editing and like production. You guys do an amazing job with production. Holy smokes.
All right, I'll cut that up then. All right, let's start here, Elo. UCF is 3-1. Are you surprised? Should we be surprised that this is a 3-1 Knights team? I know Oklahoma got canceled, right? But looking at the schedule, if I had told you 3-1, are you surprised by that result?
I am surprised just because there was so much uncertainty with this team going in, with everything that's been going on with the COVID. You know, they didn't, have a normal practice going into the season. You had Darius Perry was out to start the season. CJ Walker actually was injured before the season. So you didn't know what to expect. And I certainly didn't, they beat Auburn right off the bat. And then, things didn't look good against Michigan. They got really had a rough second half, and you're like, well, this is just going to be your ups and downs. But that Florida State game was an eye-opener and how they played. And certainly I've been pleasantly surprised with this team, and it's been a fun team to watch. And I think that's what's exciting about this is you don't really know what the ceiling is with this team yet. And that's what's exciting here as they enter a big game here today against Houston.
Let's get into today's game. Who do we have to keep an eye on Houston? Who do we need to shut down with somebody we can't let us beat us today on the court?
Well, let's start with, obviously, Quentin Grimes. He's been their best player this year. He's averaging 20 points and about 7 boards a game, leads them in scoring and second in rebounding. He's really picked up the slack for them for Caleb Mills, who's actually going to be back today, unfortunately for us. He's the preseason American Conference Player of the Year. He's dealt with 2 sprained ankles. And who knows what else he's dealt with, but 2 sprained ankles. He is back, according to Kelvin Sampson, today. He could have played Tuesday against Temple, but they decided to hold him out to save him for us. So I think those 2 guys really stand out there. Grimes is a great scorer. They're not big. They play small, but they play bigger than their size, and that's going to be something the UCF's going to have to deal with. Houston is a great rebounding team. I'll give you this stat. One of the keys in this game, rebounding. Houston is one of the best in the country. They average out rebounding their opponents by 13 rebounds. That's been our Achilles heel. We've been out rebounded by 7 so far this year. That's something that Coach Dawkins has talked about that they must get better at. This is the ultimate test today, is rebounding. I looked at the last previous matchups. When Houston has beaten UCF, they've won the battle in the boards, and especially offensive rebounding. They've gotten over 10 offensive rebounds per game. When UCF beat Houston, they won the rebounding battle, and they held Houston under 10 rebounds offensively. So those are a couple stats to keep in mind as you watch this game.
Something you and I have been buzzing back and forth about is that this game is on ABC. Are we putting too much emphasis on it being on a legacy national network? I mean, all the games are on TV, though the start of the season, and you and I disagree a great deal about this, Elo, we were on Plus too much. Now we're on the big ABC. What do you make of that?
No, I think this is significant, especially for our program. Keep in mind, UCF doesn't get a lot of national games in basketball. Their most watched regular season game ever was that 2 years ago at Houston. Remember the game that was College Game Day was in Houston? Houston was ranked 6th, ironically enough. Jay Billis did the game with Reese Davis on ESPN. That was watched by 551,000 people. That's the most watched regular season game. I'm not counting NIT games or NCAA tournament games. So my point is, the reason I bring that up is you don't get a lot of these showcase games for the basketball program. This is it right here, ABC. I mean, ESPN has started to put games on ABC now on a weekly basis for the last couple of years. It's still free television, which means more people have the TV, so you can accidentally fall into the game. I think it's a great credit, too, that this game got picked over, say, Louisville, Kentucky, which has stayed on ESPN. So I think it's a huge thing for UCF. It's a showcase for them, and really nothing to lose. They're ahead. They're the underdog. Houston's the measuring stick of the league. For UCF, this is all but positive. It's everything to gain, nothing to lose, and I think that's the approach they're going to take on the court when they tip off.
Eric, you mentioned rebounding. Obviously, if UCF's going to win the rebounding battle, one of the guys that should have been helping is Jamil Reynolds. He's been sort of missing in action, I guess I'll call it, since the before the Florida State game. Do you have any update on him? Do you have any understanding of kind of what his situation is right now?
I have not. I've been actually checking my phone on mute. So last time, my phone exploded. I don't anticipate that this time around. Right now, I haven't heard anything on him. I've been trying to wait for the starting lineup. I know, Trace, you've been keeping track on that as well to see, because Johnny Dawkins has kind of shuffled the lineups as Kelvin Sampson. You got two coaches that like to tweak their lineups, make our lives interesting. So unfortunately, I haven't heard anything about him because my phone's been busy, because the women's home game that was scheduled for Wednesday against Memphis has been called off due to some COVID issues. That was not specified which team has the COVID issues, but that just came out about 40 minutes ago. So a lot going on, but we haven't heard about Reynolds. We don't know what his status is moving forward. Hope to get more on that. If not during the game, maybe after the game in the post game press conference.
Eric, we're still licking our wounds from Tuesday night's beating at the hands of BYU. If this basketball team can go out and get a big win today against number 6, does that make us officially a basketball school? What does this team have to do to get the UCF fans behind them?
As Trace mentioned, for the record, Eric, we used to be a basketball school, and only basketball back then. Bo Clark, who just joined you guys, is a big reason for that, and the late great Torchy Clark. So there's great basketball tradition. Here's what I would say: if they win this game today, they would get ranked in the top 25 Monday. They would be, I believe, the third time in the last decade they've been ranked, at least in the Division I era. They were ranked 2 years ago when they beat Houston at Houston, ironically enough. See, there's a trend there. And then they played Cincinnati on senior night in a top 25 game. They won that game, pretty much punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. And then they were, I think, in the top 25 in that Donnie Jones's first year in 2010, but it's kind of a foggy year, how that year played out. So this would be a huge step for the program. It'd be a top 25 team. They're getting a lot of national buzz. John Rothstein has talked about him. Andy Katz, who's covered college basketball for a long time, mentioned UCF basketball as a team that is in his tiers. So I think it's a huge step for this program. I mean, they've had success, and I think this has kind of maybe surprised some people. It would be, I think, help UCF fans kind of get over the Boca Raton Bowl, get over the football season and how they feel about that, and focus on this basketball team that they deserve that attention.
It's going to take a lot more than that to get over the 2020 football season. A surprise, a nice surprise to the start of the season has been the strong play of Mr. Basketball, Isaiah Adams. And before UCF fans even realize that this season is underway, is this possibly a guy that is a one and done? May we be just seeing a short glimpse of him in black and gold?
Adam, make sure you mute Trace and edit that out so nobody has to hear about that, about Isaiah leaving after a year. We don't want that. But listen, he's been tremendous. I've been blown away by him. I think he's the most impressive UCF basketball freshman that I can remember in recent memory. And I spoke to him after the Cincinnati game in the post-game press conference because he has so much variety in his offense. He went to his low post game in the victory against Cincinnati, and he talked about the fact that he looked up to guys like Kevin Durant, and he knows that to get to the next level, which is his goal, is he has to have variety in his offensive game, and he has to play defense. And he's shown that so far here in his brief campaign. It's been tremendous. He could drive to the basket, he could shoot from the outside, he could post up, and he's been a big plus for them, because you look at UCF's offense, Brandon Mayhem has really taken it to a different level, averaging over 22 a game. Isaiah's been that number 2 scorer. He scored 13 of his 15 points in the second half in the victory against Cincinnati. And then Darren Green, one of the questions we talked earlier about, am I surprised about this team? One of the things I was curious about was, where was the offense going to come from? And it seems like Mahan and Adams and Green are your main 3 scorers. That's a pretty good luxury to have a winning basketball team, to have 3 guys that are capable of scoring. That's been a big plus for them. But Adams has been unbelievable, exciting to watch. Hopefully stays here multiple years. I don't want to hear that 1 year talk.
Let's talk about CJ Walker for a quick second. Obviously, a big recruit coming down here. I know there's some injury stuff early on. I think he hasn't necessarily been a juggernaut on offense, but he's affected the game in so many ways. I think that's the mark of a true player, right? When you only score 6 points and yet you're a big time player in the game. What do you expect to see from him offensively as the season goes on? Do you think he'll kind of gel in and figure it out, or do you think he'll kind of be one of these guys who kind of scraps and gets his points on boards and rebounds and possessions, things like that?
I still think there's more. He'll get better offensively. Remember when the season started, Darius Perry was out, and I think CJ kind of needs that point guard. Bigs need point guards. Guys like Isaiah Adams can create their own shot, whereas CJ, I think, needs a guy like Perry to feed him the basketball. So I expect him to get more opportunities once Darius Perry settles in on this team and runs the offense. I think they'll run some plays for CJ, but his impact has been defensively. He can guard so many different guys. That's what makes this defense unique. It's not like the Taco defense where basically had a 7'6" guy in the paint and nobody could drive. This is different in that this team kind of can guard anybody. They're athletic. They have a lot of length, and so CJ is a big part of that because they've been able to play him at the center position. And he is still a rim protector, and he's athletic. And you saw that dunk against Cincinnati where he is explosive. I think, and I've talked to him in these media availabilities, I think the game right now he's overthinking some things offensively. He's going 100 miles an hour. Sometimes you got to go 50 miles an hour to be effective offensively. I think that will come as he gets more time on the court and he gets more experience and he gels with his teammates. As I mentioned, he had an injury during camp prior to the season. I think that kind of set him back a little bit, but he's been a big impact defensively. And you look at today's game, he's got to stay on the court. You look at the Michigan game, one of the reasons why they struggled, he was in foul trouble right away. And I don't think if he's off the court, it could be a long game for UCF defensively.
Houston being the number 6 team in the country, obviously not too many weaknesses on this team. You mentioned maybe a little lack of size. Is there any area of the game that we have an advantage coming into this game?
I think the advantage is that we're just as athletic as them. Usually where Houston has beaten teams is they've been more athletic. They're quicker than UCF or other opponents. Where the thing that UCF's impressed me is they've been as athletic. You look at that Florida State win, they kind of went fast on Florida State. They knew they couldn't beat Florida State with size, so they outquicked them. And they made that an up-tempo game. And Florida State couldn't keep up with that. Their bigs got in foul trouble because UCF kept attacking them in the rim. And I think that's the same thing I expect today against Houston. No, lack of size. I think guys like Mayhem and Adams have got to be aggressive, attack the basket like they have. Don't settle for jump shots. That's what Houston wants you to do. They want you to settle. They're very good at guarding the perimeter. So attack the rim, be aggressive. Get to the foul line. Bo Clark made a great point earlier. The free throw battle. Johnny Dawkins believes is get to the free throw line. As long as you have more free throw attempts than your opponent has makes, he likes his chances of his teams winning. And I think it's the same today here. Attack the basket, make Houston foul you, get to the free throw line and win the free throw battle. And if you could stay close in the rebounding battle, I think that's a great recipe for them to knock off Houston. But I think attacking the basket, Mike, they gotta be. If they see them start settling for jump shots, I think it's gonna be a long game.
Coach Dawkins said that Houston has developed itself into a nationally recognized program. And Houston has had a long storied basketball history, as has UCF. But at this level, under Coach Dawkins the last couple of years, we know what a win today would mean. But even in a loss, this is still a strong five-game start for UCF that bodes well for conference play. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. That's why I'm excited about this. You have a lot to gain, but nothing really to lose. You're kind of ahead of schedule, if you will. And you see the foundation being built there by Coach Dawkins with this young nucleus there. Darren Green is young. We haven't talked about him. He's a tremendous shooter. Maybe he could go down with Matt Williams and Michael Donnell among the best shooters in recent memory. And then there's other young talent there. So this is exciting. This is more of like, hey, Houston's the measuring stick. Where do we shake up with them? How close are we? What do we have to do to improve? And it's an opportunity, a national TV to kind of showcase the program. And so I agree with you. I think they got a lot to gain, nothing really to lose with this program. I think their best basketball is still ahead of them. And really a credit to Coach Dawkins. The stat that blows my mind away, This program has 8 all-time wins against top 25 teams in the Division I era, and they've been a Division I era program since the early 80s. 8. 5 of them have happened under Coach Dawkins. I think the job he's done here has been remarkable, and you know this, Trace, from the background. It's not like men's basketball at UCF has been a priority from a resource standpoint. Obviously, the resources are going towards football. So he's going up against programs like Houston, which has put a lot of resources on their basketball program, to just name one program. So the job he has done has been quite remarkable to me when you consider he's been to the NIT Final Four, NCAA tournament at large bid, ended that streak, was 15-year drought. And even in the 2 other years where they've had injuries and things like that, they've still had winning records. I've been amazed at the job that Coach Dawkins and his staff has done. I think you mentioned it, Trace, an interesting, good, I don't know, maybe a good poll question. Is Johnny Dawkins the best hire that Danny White has made? And he's made a ton of great hires. That could be right at the top of the list because he's really stabilized this basketball program. And Johnny Dawkins has brought respect to this program because not only from an exposure standpoint, but look at the schedule. He's been able to get marquee opponents home and homes because of Coach Dawkins and his willingness to schedule top teams and the other teams' respect for Coach Dawkins and what he means to the sport of college basketball.
Elo, you're always the best. You always bring a lot of good insight. We appreciate you for hopping on. I'm not going to let you go, though, before we answer the most fun question about a UCF Houston game, and Michael Rudakowski actually has it. When do we expect a Kelvin Sampson jacket, tie, and shirt unbuttoning to begin? It's a tradition unlike any other. When you play Houston, at some point in time, Kelvin Sampson will be half naked. When do we expect that to take place?
All right. So we broke this down on this week's podcast on the Black and Gold Banneret. Tuesday night, Kelvin Sampson actually wore a Nike Polo, Houston. And there's some speculation that he might go polo the rest of the way. I'll see it to where I believe it. Now, our Brian Murphy is at the game. He will tweet us and let us know if he's wearing a suit. If he's wearing a suit and tie, I go over under the 16-minute media timeout. That's what it's going. It's too big of a game. I remember it in Orlando at the Amway Center. He took it off within 30 seconds of tip against UCF. So hopefully he still has the suit and tie, but I will caution there's a chance he might just go polo, which I know would disappoint many people. But if he keeps the suit, I'm going to go over under 16-minute mark, first media timeout.
And then just in the starting lineups are out. So it's Dre Fuller, Darren Green Jr., Brandon Mayhem, Isaiah Adams, and Sean Mobley in the starting lineup.
Same lineup to the Cincinnati game. Brings Walker off the bench, brings that energy off the bench, and also keeps him out of foul trouble. I think that's also part of the strategy for Coach Dawkins and his staff. Plus, Mobley is a very good passer, can kind of make that extra pass, get him some extra looks there against that Houston defense. So that's, I think, the thinking behind that matchup.
Elo, where can people follow you and listen to you and hear you and watch you? Give all your plugs.
All right, Eric Lopez Elo's the Twitter account. That's where you can follow all my tweets there. I'll be tweeting about this game. We'll have a post-game show, night shift, around 3:30. Brian Murphy will join us from the arena after the post-game press conference with Coach Dawkins and the players. We'll recap this game and see where we set up. That's on Black and Gold Banneret's YouTube page. That's also, of course, go blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest in UCF athletics. I got TV numbers. Trace mentioned it. I'll have the TV numbers for this game next week. I also have the football TV numbers to see how many people, unfortunately, watched the Boca Raton Bowl. It was quite a few, actually, unfortunately, or unfortunately, however you want to look at it. But we'll have all that information on blackandgoldbanneret.com. And follow me and Eric Lopez Elo for all the tweets there with UCF related and other stuff.
Awesome. Elo, you're the best, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Great job, boys. Keep it up. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thanks,
Eric Lopez from the Black and Gold Banneret joining us on the show. A lot of good information there, too. So you heard the starting lineups, guys, get released. Probably the two things that are, not surprising, maybe surprising. We stuck with the same lineup for 2 games in a row, not something that Dawkins typically does, actually. So Sean Mobley getting the start and C.J. Walker off the bench. Trace, what does that signal to you? Anything that you read into that decision?
No, I think Coach Dawkins is trying to find the right combination of guys. I think, as Elo mentioned, C.J. Walker has gotten himself into early foul trouble in the previous games. So having him come off the bench is a good thing. And I like UCF's chances. 7.5, 8-point underdog today at home. Spotlight game on ABC. I think they have the talent to win. But Coach Sampson's going to have this team well coached. And as Coach Dawkins mentioned, really the class of the AAC. this is a big opportunity for UCF to send a message to Houston that you're not alone at the top of that AAC. You know, it was just a couple of years ago that Cincinnati was in that top echelon, and UCF has shown them the last couple of seasons that they can win those games head-to-head against the likes of Cincinnati. It's nice to think of UCF in the same caliber and recognition at the top of the AAC. Remember, we're just a couple of weeks removed from the preseason AAC poll that had UCF 8th or 9th out of 11 teams. So how a couple of games, that big win at Tallahassee, changes your outlook on the season. Big opportunity today, but as Elo mentioned, as we've spoken about, even in a loss, there's less pressure on UCF than there is on Houston. Houston comes in 6th ranked, right? So there's pressure on them. They've got to win over then number 15 Texas Tech. So they are the top national program. But think about this. A win today, UCF could find itself in the top 25 in just a couple of days.
Yeah, Mike, you and I talked about this on the show this week. Sometimes youth is good because you don't know any better, right? You don't know you're supposed to be nervous or scared or that these guys are anything. You're just going out and playing your game. What do you want to see from the Knights today? Obviously, a win would be fantastic, right? But as this game tips off, are there a couple of things that you're going to be watching out for that will kind of help you understand where you think the Knights' heads are today?
In the first few games of this season, we've gotten out to fast starts basically in every game. Even the game against Michigan, we were up by 10, 12 early in the game. I want another quick start. And then, as an underdog, extend the game as long as you can. Stay in it, and break it down. Be within striking range at halftime. Be within striking range with 10 minutes to go. Shorten the game as much as possible. And then, hey, if we're in there with 5 minutes to go, it's anybody's ball game. And by then, the young guys will have already developed their confidence. Like you said, they don't know any better. So you're in a close game. They don't know they're not supposed to be winning this game. And in college basketball, it's a lot different. Like you see freshmen come all the time and make an impact. We're seeing it with Isaiah Adams. It's nothing new. So he can come in and have a big game today. I mean, the sky is the limit for this kid and this team. I'm very excited to watch. It's a fun team to watch. That's the other thing. It's not one of these slow. It's quick. It's athletic, and it's a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to this tip-off.
Well, again, just a couple of things on the Houston squad. So Quentin Grimes, their leading scorer, averages 20 points a game. So he's definitely somebody we'll have to keep an eye on today. They do hit the boards pretty heavily. Grimes is averaging seven boards a game. Also keep an eye on Justin Gorman. He had 14 and 12 in their last outing against Temple. And then Elo mentioned Caleb Mills. He was the preseason American Player of the Year. Has only played in 2 games. He will be playing again today. Will there be rust? Who knows? Obviously, Houston had some COVID concerns. I don't know that we know the full extent, but they had a 15-day sort of hiatus period, which caused this game to actually be moved to today. So there could be a bit of rust for them to shake off. We shall see. They handled Temple pretty easily last time out. So we have a couple questions in the comment section. So I'll pop those on the screen now. This one isn't necessarily basketball related, but I guess I see the tie-in, and everybody wants to talk about it anyway. So Michael wants to know, is Heupel the worst head coach on the UCF campus? Couldn't go by without sneaking this question in, Trace.
Oh, it's posed to me. I like that. We're going right to me. Well, he's not the best coach on campus. I'll say that. I think we are looking in Johnny Dawkins. The pedigree of Johnny Dawkins is the best coach. But this has been an abundance of riches at UCF. I want to keep my focus. I want to go 1-0 in basketball this week. I want to stay focused on basketball and not wade into this malaise of UCF football. I had enough of that Tuesday. I want to stay pumped up, focused, energy in the right direction for UCF men's basketball today.
Mike?
You want me to get on that one? Oh, man. We talk about it so much on the show. Heupel started out, it was the hardest job in the country. We said he took the job following an undefeated team. He had nowhere to go but down, unless he kept us undefeated every year, which is what we kind of expected, maybe foolishly. We're going to give him another year and see how it goes next year. If next year we're not competing for the conference championship, it may be the last one for Heupel. But let's focus on basketball, man. We're a basketball school now. Dawkins has us going in the right direction. Basketball is a lot of fun, and it's a sport where we actually have a chance to win the whole thing. Because let's be honest, in football, even if we're undefeated, we're not going to the playoff. Basketball is a fair sport among all schools, and if we do our job, we'll be in March Madness, and we'll be there with the chance. Look, we had a chance to beat Duke a couple years ago as the number 1 seed, and we were right there with them. Who knows where Johnny Dawkins can take this team?
A real quick note, Brian Murphy reporting Caleb Mills dressed, expected to play this afternoon, not in the starting lineup. So could be a good thing for UCF.
Lonely Bumblebee, which I think is Mario, wants to know, will he be drinking because this is a nail biter? He said male biter. I think he means nail biter. Or drinking to forget.
He's already drinking. He's already well into it.
Drinking questions only go to Mike. So, Mike, what's Mario's drinking situation today?
Because it's Saturday afternoon and we got a basketball game of among probably two top 25 teams, and UCF is in there. So that's why we're drinking. Whether it's a nail biter or whether it's a blowout, I mean, who knows? We went into Tuesday night thinking it was going to be a fun, exciting game, and it was a blowout. I don't know what to tell you about today.
I mean, win or lose, we booze, right? I think someone said it earlier. This is kind of a house money game, right? If we win this one, it's fantastic. You know, if we put up a good showing and take Houston to the wire, that's even that's just as good as a win in some respects. So it's kind of a house money game. And then the final question of the show, Nikese Johnson, who will win? Trace, I'll start with you. What do you got for today? Who's going to come out on top?
I'm not going against UCF. I think Houston can win, should win, but it's at UCF. Houston plays 500 ball when they play at UCF. So nail biter, a lot of drinking for Lonely Bumblebee. UCF wins close.
Michael?
Go Knights, baby. I mean, we win this one. I expect a back and forth high scoring affair, maybe somewhere in the high 70s, maybe low 80s. Give me 79-77. Last shot, three-pointer. Darren Green for the win. No. Go Knights.
Wow. If you're watching on your television, the ABC broadcast has just begun. They are kind of showing some pregame stuff. Brandon Mayhem is being featured pretty heavily, as well as Quentin Grimes. So they're doing the setup for the game now. Opening tip should be coming here in just a few minutes, and we'll see what the Knights have in store for them today. But let's take a few minutes and thank our special guest this evening. Obviously, Bo Clark this evening. Wow, this afternoon. Maybe I've been drinking. Bo Clark, thanks for hopping in and giving us some perspective. And obviously, Eric Lopez is always there when we need him as well. And make sure we plug the show. Mike, I'll let you do the plug this week. How do you find us? What do we do? Where can we be?
At Sons of UCF on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube now for these pregame shows. You can follow me at UCF Mike 1. You got signed Pez down here with that hat. We got to get him one of these Sons of UCF hats.
Yeah.
So give me your address and I'll send you one. And maybe some of you lucky listeners, you guys that watch the show every week and support the show, maybe there'll be a hat in store for you guys too. Keep in touch with us on all the major platforms.
It looks like Adam is just frozen in time, Mike, and he controls the bells and whistles from his palatial studios in North Florida. So we may have to just remain live.
You want me to get the dog? You want to do the name the dog contest?
While we wait for Adam to rejoin us to sign off the show, because I think we just remain in live mode until Adam signs us off. Adam is gone now. Mike is gone now.
Puppy is sleeping.
Tip off now. There's
Puppy
Mike.
Sleeping. Game
Lost
time.
Adam, but somehow we're still live. We're still live with no Adam.
Or you're back. Look at that.
There we are.
There he is.
Yeah. You know what? Kelvin Sampson does have a polo shirt on, by the way. I did see that in my sabbatical. But hey, thanks everyone for listening. Looks like tip-off is about to start. So make sure you follow us all wherever you want to follow us all. And we'll be back soon. Maybe more live stuff in the new year. Who knows? So everybody just sit tight. And but thanks everyone for your support. If we don't talk before then, everybody have a happy new year. And let's go Knights today.
Charge on.
The puppy Bo. What do you know on that?
I like it.
Oh, the puppy. Let's do it.
Torchy.
Or Torchy's a good one too.